You are listening to Sportsnoise, episode 110, The Signed, Sealed, and Delivered, or Time for More Cowbell Edition. Hello once again, everybody. I'm your host, John Carroll, and I apologize for last week. We were having technical difficulties on the website, so once again it posted, but it didn't go through. But I am joined by one of my co-hosts, Mr. Glenn Ring.
Howdy, howdy.
Hey. So Alabama struggled. Lane Kiffin. Yeah.
And the thing about it is their schedule is not going to get incredibly easier.
No. You think they're going to drop the court? You think they're going to change quarterbacks?
It's a possibility. I mean, the other guy was supposed to be the starter anyway, and not Sims.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Sims outplayed him in camp, so.
Let's see. You've got Texas A&M at home, at UT, at LSU. The number one team in the country, your Mississippi State Bulldogs, on November 15th at home, and then the warm-up game, Western Carolina and Auburn.
Yep.
I think if Alabama keeps playing the way they do and Mississippi State keeps playing the way they do, that's going to be a bad home loss versus Mississippi State.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times in the Saban era have they been a home underdog? It can't be too many times, but I'm pretty sure they're going to be at least a 3 or 4 point dog at home versus State.
Yeah, probably. I can't believe we live in a world where the number one team in the nation is Mississippi State.
Well, and if you don't like that, it's not going to get much better because their schedule the rest of the way out is fairly easy.
Yeah.
They're at Kentucky, home versus Arkansas, home for UT Martin, the aforementioned Alabama game, home for Vandy, and then the Egg Bowl at Ole Miss.
Yep.
Unless they just completely shit the bed, their season comes down to Alabama and Ole Miss.
Yep.
They should. I mean, they've already gotten through. I bet you if you talk to the most ardent State fan and you told them at this point they would be 4-2 or 5-1, given their schedule, they would take that.
Oh yeah. Because they easily would have thought they would have lost the last two. Yeah. But
the problem with Ole Miss and Mississippi State playing so late in the season is that only one of them will make it to the. You won't have that one where Alabama and LSU played each other because they played earlier and a little bit earlier, and then you'd have to have some massive chaos to get Ole Miss and Mississippi State into the playoff, I would think.
The only way I could see it is if both teams go undefeated until the Egg Bowl, and they win, and you've got two lost teams coming out of the Pac-12 and Big Ten. And even then, it'd probably be Florida State, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, and Baylor would be your four teams. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that Notre Dame can beat Florida State. I don't think they will.
No.
And Florida State's schedule is fairly simple, so you would think at this point you'd have Mississippi State, or Ole Miss, Florida State. I guess Baylor is the leading contender, but they still have a fairly rough schedule. And if Baylor loses, then you have the whole cast of one-loss teams: Auburn, Alabama, Michigan State, Oregon, etc.
Yeah, because Baylor's got they're at West Virginia this week. Then they get to pick their score against Kansas, and then they've still got then they're at Oklahoma and home for Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, and Kansas State. And Texas Tech is being played on a neutral field what neutral field is that being played at? Is that being played at the Jerry Dome?
But it seems like the past few years the Big 12's thing is to be right at the edge of being in there and then losing horribly late in the season and getting knocked out.
Yeah.
At least in the BCS era. I mean, I would not. I mean, Oklahoma State, and Kansas State. That's a fairly tough road still.
Yeah. Baylor, Texas Tech is being played at Jerry Dome, Jerry World. I had to look it up.
And West Virginia is not exactly a cakewalk.
Yeah, 4-2, and they can put up some points. Yeah, wasn't it a couple years ago when that score was like 70-60 or something like that? Ungodly.
Yeah, that was that video game where it was just.
Yeah, the lowest amount of points they've scored this year was 23 against Alabama, and then 33, and then they've 33 a couple of other times. Yeah. Yeah, West Virginia's schedule. Ooh, here's West Virginia in a row: home with Baylor, at Oklahoma State, home for TCU, at Texas, home for number 14 Kansas State. Ooh, that's a run of ugh.
Right.
Considering their 2 losses this year to Oklahoma when it was ranked number 4 and Alabama when they were ranked number 2. Hmm.
And I think Alabama or Auburn has a good chance of playing their way back into this thing.
Yeah, I think it'd be tough for Alabama. But
Yeah,
Alabama could still. It's almost impossible for Alabama to play their way into it because they'd have to win their division, and with they'd have to hope Ole Miss would have to lose twice.
Right.
Which is possible, but yeah. And Alabama is going to have to run the table.
Yeah. That's the thing that seems unlikely.
Yeah. I mean, looking at Ole Miss's schedule, like you said, I mean, they could lose to Auburn and they could lose to State. Yeah, that'd be about it, though. Because that's their only tough games left is Auburn and State.
Well,
and State's only got Ole Miss and Alabama left.
Right. Well, the only thing I would say is a night game at LSU. Ole Miss should win that game, but stranger things have happened.
Yeah. Yeah. And LSU is they're 5-2. It seems like they're worse than 5-2 though.
Well, it's like Alabama in a way that you're just used to them being in the middle of things, and just to get just absolutely hammered by Auburn the way they were, it just isn't. And they were really beaten bad by Mississippi State. Mississippi State let them back into the game.
Yeah.
We had that wedding to go to, but I watched about most of the third up through the third quarter of that Mississippi State Auburn game, and that was just a bizarrely weird game.
Yeah, State just was in control the entire game.
Well, I mean, and then they started trying to get too cutesy in the second quarter with the fake punt and some bad play calling that let Auburn back into the game.
Yeah.
But then again, Auburn didn't do themselves any favor by basically handing them a 21-point lead.
I know because I think I turned on the TV at 3, and I just looked at the score and I was like, "What?" And then I turned on Baylor. I was like, "What?" Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is that the defense totally saved their butts because they held Auburn to 2 field goals when it could have easily been 21-21 instead of 21-6.
Yeah. Oh God, that's some terrible games. Sorry, I was looking at the 2:30 games. Ugh.
Oh, this week. Let's
Yeah.
check it out.
Here's your 11 o'clock game. You've got a good 11 o'clock game on ESPN with Kansas State and Oklahoma. But your 2:30 games are on CBS, Texas A&M and Alabama. And your choices for ABC are Rutgers, Ohio State, UCLA, and Cal. Ugh. It's hard to
You've
believe
got
Cal has fallen out of the top 25.
you've got a 3 o'clock game, Oklahoma State and TCU. That's not horrible.
No, what's that? Sorry, let me go down to it's on 4 o'clock again. That's on FS1, I guess, because they couldn't. They've got because I think there's baseball Saturday, and plus they've got to get those contractually obligated games over to Fox Sports 1, because normally that'd be on Fox. Yeah.
Let's see what the SEC schedule looks like this week.
Ugh. Tennessee, Ole Miss at 6. Kentucky LSU is your SEC network game.
South Carolina's got homecoming, obviously.
Yeah. Florida State, Notre Dame is your 7 o'clock ABC game.
Yeah, well, you figured that.
Yeah. Ooh, 9:30, Arizona State, Stanford. Yeah. I'd almost
Well,
want to see.
do you think the Domers?
Go
Do you
ahead.
think the Domers can make a game of it, or is it just gonna?
Oh yeah, they've got a good enough defense they can. I mean, that game's not even on the board right now because of the James Winston situation. Yeah. He's apparently being investigated for the same thing that Gurley got investigated for, is being suspended for.
Yeah. This is interesting. Georgia's only a 3.5 point favorite over Arkansas.
That's about right. Where is it? Is it at Arkansas?
Must be.
Yeah, because I mean, without Gurley, yeah, it's at Arkansas at 3 on SEC Network. Without Gurley, Georgia is good, but they're not great.
Well, and I think it also shows the close but no cigar that the Arkansas team seems to have been this year. It's not like they're getting blown out like they were last year. They're at least competitive.
Yep.
Bama is an 11.5 point favorite over Texas A&M, and Ole Miss is.
And that's at Alabama, right?
Yes, and Ole Miss is 16 point favorite over UT. I might actually take A&M to cover that.
Yeah.
I mean, the way Alabama's been playing, I think they can beat A&M. I just think it's going to be. I don't think they're going to cover 11.5 points. That seems like a lot for this team.
Looking at next week's schedule, there looks like a whole bunch of garbage, but it could be some good games. There is currently I'm just looking ahead to next week just for giggles. There is only one game matching two top 25 teams. USC and Utah. Although Ole Miss and LSU could if LSU wins this week and sneaks back into the top 25.
I don't know. I still like the Alabama and Tennessee game, even when Tennessee's bad.
Yeah, just because you get to beat up on them.
It actually is a little more fun when UT is good. When they haven't really been good in the years.
Let's see. Yeah, that's the 6:15 ESPN. It is okay. They've got 3 games at 6:15 next week for their ESPN2 SEC network, aka we haven't decided yet.
Now, with this playoff system, there's like several bowls involved, but only 2 of them will be the bowl games, and then they'll switch out. They'll switch out the 2 games that are the playoffs. Is that how it works?
Yeah, it's going to be Fiesta. It's going to be the Big Four as usual, and they're also going to rotate in the Cotton Bowl, I believe. The Peach Bowl.
So if the bowls are not part of the playoff, they'll just go to their usual tie-ins.
Correct. They're going to rotate the semifinals between those 6 bowls. Are going to rotate between those 6. And if you're not one of those, then it goes to wherever, and then you just go with your traditional tie-ins. Yeah. Rose, Fiesta, Orange, Sugar, Peach, and Chick-fil-A, and what the other one I say with Cotton, yeah.
Yeah, because the pre-BCS Cotton Bowl was actually one of the bigger bowls. It kind of got jobbed in the BCS era.
That's because the Fiesta Bowl people paid them a shit ton of money to be in it. I mean, you've seen all the stuff that's come down about that.
Oh yeah, yeah. There was money flying all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah, it started in what, 87 when the Fiesta Bowl bought Penn State and Miami to come there and play for the national title.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't even want to go into that game. Yep.
Well, and that was a time when you could still have Independence possibly winning the national championship. Now you basically got Notre Dame.
Yeah, well, I mean, back then all of your big teams were independents. Outside of, I mean, of all the teams that won titles in the 80s, it was pretty much Miami, Oklahoma, Penn State. Yeah, I mean, that was it. BYU.
Right. That was more of a fluke thing.
Yeah, because everyone else was bad or lost. But I mean, nobody from the Pac-12 did until Washington came up that one year. Colorado, they did their one year, but they cheated to win, and they were Big 8. The ACC really only had that one year with Tech. You know, Miami was in. Go ahead.
That once again, that was closer to what BYU did, where they just kind of
where they had the split title. Yeah. Yeah. See, oh, I don't know. You didn't watch any of that the Utah game when they played last week, did you?
Mm-mm.
They played. Who was it? They played and beat UCLA.
Right.
This will make you feel old. Their quarterback was Kendall Thompson. You may remember him. You may remember his dad, who used to play at Oklahoma back in the 80s.
Yeah, I got that when one of Dan Tippen's kid was kicking at Alabama, and I watched him play at Alabama.
Yeah, it's like Charles Thompson's kid. Oh my God, I feel old. And I had that same thing when I was watching the Duke game on ESPN 3, I think, no, or whatever. Actually, on the ACC game, I was like, no, that's got to be what's his name's kid. No, it is. It was Ed McCaffrey's kid. I was like, crap.
Yeah, didn't you tweet that his kids are at Stanford and Duke?
Yeah, I texted you, Sean, and Steve that I was like, I just looked him up and it said his brother played there. I was just like, I feel old. Yeah. Sting, the wrestler Sting, Steve Borden, his son plays for Kentucky. He's a tight end for Kentucky. So, of course, the wrestler Animal, his son is James Laurinaitis. John Laurinaitis, yeah. The middle linebacker for St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's going to be... that's how you can tell you're getting old. You're starting to see the kids of the guys you grew up on coming to play, and you're just like, no.
Right.
But so what do you think? So you think's right now going to be the big 4 making the playoffs? I think it's going to be State, Mississippi State if they win out, or Ole Miss, whoever wins that. Florida State, Baylor,
Michigan or Oregon. Michigan State, I mean.
Yeah, I'd say Michigan State because they've got the easiest schedule.
Right.
I mean, they have Indiana. They've got a tune-up this week, then the Michigan and Ohio State. If they get past Ohio State, the season's over. They're gonna make it. Then again, who do they play?
Well, I'm reading.
And the other side of the Big Ten, they'd have to play they'd probably play Minnesota. Yeah.
I'm just that they've got the odds. There's not a lot of love for Ole Miss and Mississippi State. They gave Ole Miss a 5.2% chance of winning out, and Mississippi State 5.1.
I can see that. I mean, they both have incredibly tough schedules to finish the season.
Right.
And State's still got 2 tough teams left. And Ole Miss has 2. And they both have 3, really, with LSU, because they're at LSU. LSU, Auburn, Presbyterian, Arkansas, and State on one side, and Arkansas, Martin, Alabama, Vandy, and Ole Miss. At Ole Miss.
Well, basically, right now you've got the Florida State, Baylor, the Mississippi teams with win, and you're in.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is that time of year where everybody knows what's going to happen, and then that's when chaos starts happening.
Yes. Yes, it is.
I mean, like Alabama being able to, after losing to LSU and being able to play themselves back into the BCS championship game. But a lot had to happen for them to get there.
Yeah. I just think it's going to be, if Florida State wins out, I'm just going to be like, great.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if it's going to turn into a Reggie Bush situation where they would have to let go of their national championship.
Yeah, and rescind the Heisman Trophy. Could be. Be a redacted.
Well, they were talking about this on ESPN when I was running some errands. How the choices that Jameis Winston is making is costing him so much money.
Yeah, he's already lost. And with this whole situation with what's going on there with the signatures, I mean, he's cost himself so much. He may even slip to the 3rd. He's cost himself first round money because nobody's going to give him that, and he's borderline 2nd now.
Well, I mean, when you're talking about the amount of money you're spending on quarterbacks, you don't want the Jeff George head case.
And he's going to have, if he goes to the right team, he could get straightened up, but he's going to have to go to the right team.
Yeah. Or I guess the best example of that would probably be Ryan Leaf.
Leaf was immature, yeah. And he ended up in the wrong situation, yeah.
But speaking of the draft, do we want to switch over to the NFL?
To the officially paid league? Sure.
Officially paid league? Yeah. Okay, I'll say it. How about them Cowboys? Woo! Okay, I watched the replay of that Seattle-Dallas game. Dallas, well, don't panic on Seattle quite yet. And Dallas was very un-Dallas-like, and they made plays when it counted.
Yeah. Yeah.
However, when you got a team led by Tommy Romo, I want to see him make that play when it really counts, when they have to win a game or in a playoff game. Because he has yet to do that. He's actually had a couple of pretty good early season wins like this. But once December and January start rolling around, those get harder and harder.
And they're one of their best. Their right tackle is out for about a month. Let's see how they do this next month.
But do you think people are heading with the whole what's wrong with Seattle is a little premature?
Maybe. A little, but not really. Yeah. They could, I mean, it's the hardest thing to do is not to win your first title, it's to win your second
Right.
in a row. Yeah.
Well, and everything kind of fell right for them last year.
Yeah. No one else was very good in the NFC, and this year, I mean, that team that they got to play two very good offensive teams if they have to play Philly or the Cowboys,
Right.
or if they have to go to Green, or if they have to play Green Bay. So there's three very good teams they have to play.
Right. They were.
Hmm.
Well, I think even if they don't, I think they need home field advantage. Though I think that really helps them.
Yeah, and as it stands right now, they would not be in the playoffs.
Right.
Because it'd
Yeah.
be Philly, Detroit, Dallas, Carolina, and Arizona would be your playoff teams.
Yeah. Grantland had that breakdown of ranking the non-playoff teams.
Yeah, I hadn't looked at it yet.
Well, it's fairly straightforward in as much as the teams you expect that are towards the bottom don't have a real good chance of making the playoffs. The Raiders, Jags, Rams, Washington, the Jets, Tampa Bay, the Vikings, Titans. And once you start getting up to Miami and Buffalo, then you start actually getting that they have a chance if things break right. And they say that the teams that have the best chance that aren't currently in the playoffs are Green Bay and Seattle.
Hmm.
Uh, Followed by the Saints. If just the Saints and Falcons, just if nothing else, their division is garbage this year.
I think what's his name? I think Mike Smith might get fired.
Coach of the Falcons.
Yep. Uh, Arthur Blank made a statement that the team is too talented to be 2-4,
Right.
and they're about to play their next 4 games on the road, essentially.
Right. Well, as I said, we talked a little bit about this in the Lost podcast, but I think like the NFC South is going to be basically what the NFC East has been, where you have a one team that might win a home playoff game, but they're not going to win on the road, and
Yep.
have a real good shot of getting upset in the first round.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think the Bucks are getting him, and I'd still say the Falcons, Carolina, or Saints could any three of the three could get hot and get in and win the division.
Yeah. Hmm.
And, well, if nothing else, that the Saints still have a good many home games left, so that's the one thing they've got going for them.
And the Falcons, how many do we have left? We have 6. Although one of them is technically I'm sorry, we have 5 left, of which one of them is in Detroit, is in London. Ugh,
Who are they playing in London?
Detroit.
Boy, we send them all the good games, don't we?
Yeah. That game's at 9:30 a.m. too. I think I'll be sober at that hour.
9:30 in the morning in London.
No, 9:30 a.m.
Oh,
Eastern.
yeah. Well,
8:30 here.
It's like if you live in Hawaii to watch the NFL, you got to get up at just ungodly early in the morning.
Yeah, ass crack of dawn. Yeah.
Actually, 10 o'clock on the West Coast is early enough.
Yeah. Because I think it'd be 8 a.m. or 7. Yeah, for an early game. No. That's too early. Way too early. Yeah. Now, what do you think the chances of good old Rex surviving this weekend? If they lose Thursday night. Or should I say when they lose Thursday night?
I guess it's a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, do they want to hold up, go ahead and do it, or do they want to wait till the bye? Because I mean, their bye is 3 more weeks away. So I mean, their bye is not till week 11. They still got Buffalo, KC, and Pittsburgh along with New Orleans. They could be they could easily be 1-9 at that point.
Right.
But the owner likes Rex, so yeah.
Rex might actually survive the season, but not be like that Monday morning firing.
Yeah. There's going to be several guys. There's going to be several coaches that way. I mean, Sperano's going to be fired. I mean, then again, he's already been. He will not be retained past the interim. Who else is probably going to get shit canned? I'm going to go out and go ahead and say it. I think Mike Smith's going to get fired. Think the only other person I could see getting fired, and it would be a surprise, would be Fisher.
I think Fisher's got one more year, but if they have another bad year, he's definitely going. The seat's going to warm up.
Yeah.
The guy in Jacksonville is still relatively new.
Yeah, he just completed his second season. He's just still building that team. I mean, that getting rid of him would be a mistake because that team was terrible in talent. Yeah. And they could have beat Tennessee. They could have beat Pittsburgh. They've got a nice little run here where they've got 3 of their next 4 at home. Yeah, I mean, their first 6, 2 were at home, 4 were on the road. So they've got Cleveland, Miami at home, then they go to Cincinnati, then they're home for Dallas. So maybe that Miami game is winnable. Then at Indy, home for New York, home for Houston, at Baltimore, home for Tennessee, at Houston. I mean,
yeah, that game versus the Giants doesn't seem as winnable as it was a few weeks ago.
it actually seems more winnable to me now that the Giants have lost Victor Cruz.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
Speaking of, we after going 0-2, the Copeland was definitely on the hot seat, but then it kind of cooled off after winning 3 straight games. But it might start heating up again if they start floundering again. Because the first 2 weeks they just looked bad.
Yeah. As bad as they look, well, Sunday, yeah.
You know, when the Giants are clicking, they can play with just about anybody. But when they're off, they're just. Ugh.
Yeah. The only impressive game out of that whole bunch was Houston, and to me, because I mean Washington is terrible. My Falcons have a horrendous defense, and so yeah. I mean, just projecting out the rest of the season, I'd be surprised if the Giants got to 500. Yeah, 'cause, I mean, they've got a really tough stretch here. I mean, they're at Dallas this week. Bye. Home for Indy, at Seattle, home for San Fran, home for Dallas. At Jacksonville, there's a win. At Tennessee, there should be a win. Home for Washington, there's a win. At St. Louis, there's another win. So that actually would put them at 500. So I think looks like they could go 8-8.
Yeah, they get to that early December schedule, and they might be able to make a little bit of hay.
I mean, they've got a run of 4 games that are winnable.
Right.
So, I mean, 7-9 is easily doable. So.
And then you catch Philly if they've already clinched everything. They might rest some starters and just they've got a shot with that in the last game.
Yeah. Yeah, because Dallas' schedule is fairly weird. I mean, they're home for New York, home for Washington, home for Arizona, so 3 straight games at home. Then at Jacksonville, bye, at New York. Then they're home for Philly on the Thanksgiving game. Then a week later on Thursday, they're at Chicago, then at Philly, home for Indy, and at Washington. So they've got them being at the bye 8-2 is easily 8-2 or 9-1 is easily doable.
Yes.
God, we're gonna have to deal with Cowboys fans. Oh.
Well, let's see what happens in that after the bye week, because at Giants is not an easy game, but then after that,
game too.
Yeah. So let's see what happens when you've got you played Philly 2 times in 3 weeks.
Yeah, I'm just happy because in my one big fantasy league, there's a guy that has a ton of Cowboys, and I play him week 11, the week they're on bye. He has Romo, Murray, and I traded him Des Bryant for Randall Cobb and another good receiver. Yeah. So I came out ahead. So.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, I needed it's a PPR league, so that's why it helped. Yeah. Let's see. Have you watched any of the baseball?
Very little.
You ain't missing. You're missing some fun. It's been actually a good playoffs. Yeah.
Well, I think that baseball has the right amount of teams for their playoffs.
Yeah. In 8 teams, that's it. No, 10. Yeah. Yeah. But.
When you and with the wild card, you essentially have a play-in game. I mean that you.
Yeah. It is. It is a play-in game. Yeah. Did you see what they're going to be playing on? Is it Sunday? Yeah, Sunday in the Celtics-Nets game.
Is that the one that's going to do the 11-minute quarters?
Yeah. That's about right. I think it's going to hurt some players' scores. So. Yeah.
I get the idea, but what drags out games is if it's a close game, we have all the fouling and timeouts and stuff. And having 4 less minutes, I don't think will make that big of a difference.
I think it will, because I mean it's actually going to, and plus they're also going to remove a timeout on each half, so it's actually more like they're getting rid of 6 minutes. Actually, they're getting rid of 8 minutes.
Right.
So, yeah. I mean, it's kind of like baseball is all the stuff they're talking about speeding up the game, and somebody said, well, you're only going to take out about maybe 5 or 6 minutes, and that's not going to make people. It's like, no, if you start doing this and you enforce it, you'll take out half an hour. Yeah.
I'm just looking at the baseball scores. If KC wins this game, I guess that Baltimore is officially toast.
Yeah, because only one team has ever come back from a 3-0 deficit, and that team was playing the next two games at home. Yeah. Yeah. Our buddy Holtz, I didn't realize he was a Cardinals fan, so I've trolled him a little bit. So yeah,
Oh yeah,
well,
San Francisco won.
Yeah, it's not that I hate the Cardinals. I don't like Cardinals fans.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like the idiot Cowboy fans. See, because that thing that they did with the dumbest fans,
Oh yeah.
I don't think the Cowboy fans were near high enough. Because there are some dumb Cowboy fans.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, I get that there are some dumb Alabama fans, but I think the complaint about Alabama fans is they're spoiled. They're not necessarily dumb.
Okay. Some Alabama fan. My sister, of course, she's now living in Montgomery. She has to deal with them more than we do, but yeah, I just can't stand Ole Miss fans. State fans, I feel a little sorry for at times, but I just can't stand Ole Miss fans.
Well, I think you have a similar dynamic in both places.
Ole Miss fans are Alabama fans without the winning.
Yes.
Yeah.
It tends to be a little. Well, yeah, it tends to be a little blue bloody too. At least a lot of the people I know that actually went to Ole Miss.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to watch what would happen with if the Ole Miss wins out and goes to the championship game. God, I would be so rooting for them to lose.
But the only SEC team I really actively root against is Tennessee.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
it's
always
like,
root against Tennessee. Yeah.
well, and actually, with Auburn, I kind of like, well, if they win, they win. If they don't, they don't. And then it's like, I wasn't rooting against them. And then when they started winning against Florida State, it's like, hey, they might actually win this game. But then they blew it. It's like, they didn't win. So I kind of came full circle during the whole game.
Yeah, I can see that.
But yeah, I just don't get the annoying Auburn fans I do. That you just UT fans, I still think are some of the dumbest fans there are.
Yep.
And the reason that it wasn't higher is because Clay Travis did it, and he's a UT fan.
Yeah.
And if you want to troll somebody, a good fan base to do that to troll is Alabama fans because he knows who would get the hits for it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's okay. So why not? Because it's fun.
Yeah, yeah. There was some idiot fan that called in a show and wanted to sue Clay Travis. It's like, sir, thank you for proving the point. There are dumb Alabama fans.
Oh, speaking of which, we were watching The Soup last week's The Soup, and they had a thing on there from the Feinbaum show
Goof.
on ESPN, and it's basically a woman that was going off on Feinbaum for saying that the Alabama dynasty was over. It was funny because you could just see because you could see Feinbaum just staring off in the distance, doing that distance still going, "You're a dumbass lady. You're proving my point." Yeah.
Well, Nick's going to do it a few more years, and then he's going to either get one more shot at the NFL or just hang him up.
I think he'll just hang him up.
I just don't see him going to another college team.
No. Why should he?
Yeah. That's why I never believed that. That's why I never believed all that he was going to go to Texas stuff last year.
I think last year going to Texas was roughly the last year that he would do it.
Right. I mean, he always has pretty good defenses. He just needs to get a few more skilled players back in, and they could be back contending. And they've only lost one game. It's not the end of the world. And even if they end up losing 3 games and losing to Mississippi State and Auburn, it's not the end of the world.
Tell that to Alabama fans.
Oh, I know. That's why I said Alabama fans are spoiled.
Yeah.
You know, you've got the we live in a city that's had mediocrity at best in your college football team, and would kill for some of the years Alabama's had for off years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. What else? I mean, speaking of having good years, I mean, the Tigers locally, I mean, they look like they were going to put it together, and then they had 5 turnovers to prove Fuente's point of the very thin team. But I mean, they still could easily go 7-5, 8-4.
You know, they've got talking about schedule. They've got a fairly easy schedule.
Yeah, I mean, they only had a couple of tough games, so yeah.
Which is good. I mean, you get that was what people are always talking about. Memphis needs to get into the Big East. It's like, well, you can't win Conference USA. You at least have to win the schedule that you've got before you can go up to another level of league.
Well, yeah. What was going to get the Tigers in there was the what do you call it? The basketball team. So
Right. But you still had to have a competitive football team, and they did not have that.
no, they did not.
I mean, Louisville wasn't always great at football, but at least they had competitive teams, and now they're in the ACC.
Yeah. Well, they actually had good teams. I mean, all throughout their history, they've been fairly decent. So I would argue a little that way. So.
Well, I mean, they had the combination of basketball and football.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, I think 5 years ago, if Memphis would have had a somewhat, if you could have gotten a few 7-4 teams at least in a fairly good bowl game, if you at least had some competitive teams, they might be in a different position right now.
Yeah.
But 5 years ago, they were just absolutely horrible when they needed to be good in football, or at least competitive in football.
I would agree with that. Yeah. And they made they should have fired Rip Shear a year earlier than they did. But yeah. But they didn't. So what can you do?
Right.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw, but they had a There's a good ESPN or no, SB Nation, I think it was, on Watson Brown.
The guy that used to be the UAB coach.
Yeah, he's the head coach at Tennessee Tech. Yeah. I did not realize he is Mac's brother.
Did not know that either.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I see, all these teams rushing to Division One or whatever they're calling it, and none of them seem to be making the transition well.
At least not initially. No.
Right. But to me, that'll be the first sign that college football is slipping is when some of these teams decide, this isn't worth the money we're spending and go back to a lower division.
Yeah. But I don't think that'll ever happen. I think it'll be more of just a case of they just don't show up. They drop football altogether.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hmm.
Well, we got kind of both NFL. Well, I guess the NFL is kind of a quarter way through their season. The college football is halfway through their season.
Yeah. And we're on the verge of good old basketball kicking off.
Right. The Thunder are going to go the first month at least without Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
What he broke it? He broke his little toe.
Or something like that. I can't remember exactly. I do not have ESPN pulled up again. Let me pull it up. ESPN. Let's see. What is exactly this is? Yeah. Team Oklahoma City. Oh, break. There it is. Oh, I'm an idiot. There's right there. Just says foot.
I thought it was
A
fractures.
Jones fracture is a break in the bone on the outside of the foot. Ew. So not his big toe, but ew. Yeah. Ew.
Well, I
Yeah.
guess if you're the Thunder, you would rather have your not have your superstar at the beginning of the season instead of the end of the season.
Yeah, or the middle. It's better just to go ahead and get it over with. He's going to be out. Hopefully that doesn't keep bothering him. Because those foot injuries suck.
So we're gonna do an NBVA preview anytime soon.
Maybe next week or the week after, right at the start of the season.
Right.
Yeah, because there's no point to doing it next week. So yeah, we'll shoot for next week. Yeah, you want to shoot for next week or the week after that, the 28th? Because the 28th is is opening night. So
Yeah. Why don't we do it before the 28th?
Okay. We will shoot then for either next week or either the 21st or let's say 2 weeks from Monday. So yeah, that way we get it out beforehand. Okay. Works for me. Got anything else to add for the rest of this show?
No, I can't think of anything.
Same. Yeah. Guess we're boring. All
We don't
right.
have Steve here for our soccer update.
Oh, God, thank God. Yeah. All right. Let's go ahead and end it there since that's as good a place as any to end it, and we're going out.